You are about to witness bodily dismemberment, sub-zero temperatures, and all-out mayhem. Brought to you by the Frontline Network.
Sup COH fans, and welcome to the first episode of Frontline Fatalities Season 3, brought to you by the Frontline Network, presented by me, FatalSaint, and today with me, as Tommy is still abroad, he's soon home. For you people that have been asking in the comments, Tommy's been abroad this month, so he will be back very soon. But today I actually have one of the Relic developers, Peter, with me today, same guy that was on our tournament live show, the 28th to the 30th of June. So welcome back to the show, Peter.
Hey, good to be here.
Yeah, hopefully we can give the players out there some insights and some nice new tricks maybe that you have up your sleeves, and build orders and whatnot, and discuss some units, and maybe we'll also delve a little bit deeper into upcoming patches, for example. But yeah, we have a 2v2 today, and your teammate is NTD. He's one of, I think he's the cameraman for SNF, and you're playing against two players, one called TG, Mercenary, and Sully. So do you know who these players are, or it's just it was just a random automatch game?
It was an automatch game. Actually, yeah, it was just completely random.
Yeah, okay. So it's gonna be played on Moscow Outskirts summer version, not the snow version, not the winter version. So no blizzards today on this 2v2 on Moscow. But yeah, let's just get into the game. We're at the 5-second mark, and let's unpause the game in 3, 2, 1, unpause. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Nice and synced up, Peter?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Good to go. So what is your standard build order for 2v2s, for example? Do you do something specifically different for 2v2s compared to 1 versus 1? How do you like to basically sync up with your teammate? One goes tier 1, one goes tier 2. These were things that very often happen in Company of Heroes 1. You had your set build orders for 2v2s, right, and then in 1 versus 1 it's completely different. Do you feel it's the same in Company of Heroes 2?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially Soviets, you got to make sure you cover each other's weaknesses, and that's what you'll see in this replay. I believe he goes tier 1 and I go tier 2, or vice versa. Okay. And then I go tier 3 and he goes tier 4. So, especially as Soviets, because if you invest in just one building, let's say you both go tier 3, you're leaving yourself really vulnerable to a hard counter, which might be a Stug or AT guns or anything to that effect. So it's good to diversify and really utilize each building's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, getting T-70s and T-34s for their, the T-70 is good against light vehicles and infantry, T-34, good against light vehicles and infantry as well, kind of a mix, They can also combat medium armor, fairly at least. And then tier 4, you have the proper medium armor hard counter with the SU-85s, for example. And, support tanks like SU-76. Is there any specific vehicle that you find it's just like, this is my favorite vehicle? It's just, something that you always go for?
T-70, man.
T-70.
All the way.
T-70 is all the way. So, a few people are actually talking quite a lot on the official forums and the fan site forums about, various units like T-70s and T-34s, etc. Because in that major vehicle patch that you did in, I think, the later stages of the open beta, where you rehauled quite a lot of the vehicles, quite a few people actually talk about them. It's like, T-70s, very potent against infantry, and some people think it's a little bit too speedy. You can crush infantry with it as well.
Yeah, it's definitely speedy. You can crush infantry. But honestly, remember what it was in the beta? It was a really weak unit. It was often never utilized. I feel like it's very effective now. It's strong, it's potent, but it has its counters. Potentially, its counters can be strengthened a little bit. We've talked about looking at the AT gun, for example. Yeah. Being a better counter to it. But I think overall, we're happy with the way the unit's performing. And we're just looking at making sure that the options are available for an early T-70 push, so that players aren't kind of losing the game at the 8-minute mark because there's nothing to counter the T-70 with.
Yeah, exactly. So what would be your go-to counter if your opponent would go for something like, 4 conscripts, just build a tier 1 building as it's cheaper than the tier 2 building, just to get the tier 3 building available and then just go for the fast T70. Where should you be, you know, as the Axis player at that point? What should you have on the field when that fast T70 comes?
You need to have tellers on the field. If I'm looking at my opponent and I don't see the M3 coming out and I don't see any type of fuel being used, I'm going to assume he's going to build a T70 or a T34. So I know that right away I'm going to start dumping my munitions into mines. Because an early teller mine really shuts down that T70, no doubt. And it's a shock. It's a shock for the player because they put a lot of investment in that T70 rush. And for them to lose it right off the bat, it's enough sometimes to demoralize the opponent to the point where you kind of really get the mental advantage, not just the game advantage.
Yeah,
psychological advantage.
Yeah, exactly. I've used actually teller mines as well. I've played various people in automatch that goes for the fast T70 strategy. It basically outright kills it in one go, you know.
Yeah, it's a one shot, one go. 60 munitions, so it's a huge rate of return on that mine, and it doesn't get triggered by infantry, which is great. You don't have to worry about a cheap combat engineer squad taking that hit, so you know you're going to get your money's worth.
Yeah, exactly. I see a very strong play from you on the right-hand side, especially, you know, nicking that cutoff and cutting the Axis players off from the right-hand side, and even going for these munitions points right outside of their bases as well. So very aggressive conscript plays. That's something you always do. You just like push, go.
Definitely.
Just gotta be an annoyance constantly because, you know, conscripts fairly cheap to reinforce. You can get quite a lot of them, you know, without investing way too much as they come out of the tier 0 building.
The big thing is you want to look at Germans. I feel like Germans get more value out of their munitions because they have so many of these unit upgrades. So cutting off the munitions early on really puts pressure on them. It reduces the amount of options that they have, and it allows my units to actually have be stronger, right? Because I don't have to worry about the LMGs, the 251 flamethrowers, and so forth. But what I'm trying to do here by harassing this point and getting this building is basically force him to draw units from the front line to the back line, and that gives me an opportunity to push with my other guys, which is exactly what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, you can look up your opponent's units by basically being an annoyance in the backfield outside of their bases, you know, jumping into buildings, camping heavy cover, for example, and they have to redirect resources to fight that off. That's, you know, less units to fight on the front lines, I guess.
Exactly. It's never underestimate, like in this case, he's using 2 squads essentially to take this point down here. That's 2 squads he's not on the field. I'm only using 1. I think at the end of the day, I'm getting the better deal at here.
Yeah, nice Molotov in the building forces the Grenadiers to actually vacate these conscripts right now. Very low health though, 3-man squad left, and the Grenadiers are 3 men as well. And as they have the superior armor, they will most likely beat you out. But he didn't get the munitions point, so either way, you've caused an, you know, quite an economical, you know, damage to your opponent right now. And that Grenadier squad is almost burning up.
Yep, and I'm going to go put in this other conscript squad up in this corner, eventually take it back again. Keep that pressure on.
Just keep the pressure on. So, do you think you could do the same when you're playing as the German faction? You keep the same pressure on. Can you apply the same aggressive tactics as the Germans?
I think you can, but it's a little bit harder. I think that you're more restricted in your unit count, and there's a lot of things you have to worry about, like an M3 punishing you. Or so there's some tendency, there's some desire that you want to keep your units a little more together as the Germans, whereas Soviets you can do a little more of this kind of this area denial, hit and run type of tactics.
Hit and run, yeah, exactly. That's what I feel, especially with, you know, M3 scout cars with snipers in them, for example. You just basically roll around as, you know, at maximum distance, and they can't really do anything to fend you off until they get something like a pack on the field, for example, that basically one-shots the M3. But, you know, if you can hide behind shot blockers, etc., it can be extremely hard to get at that. But we do have German half-track on the field right now. He might be upgrading that to a Flammenwerfer in the future if they have enough munitions. But they've basically just reconnected their munitions outside of their base, and you're just going to go decap it again. I'm
just going to go decap again because I know that they're going to... I want them to invest as much as they can to protect it.
So right now we have 3 conscripts and the initial combat engineer, and you went for 2 Maxim and an AT gun. Have you actually seen that half-track, or just did you hear it in the fog of war, the engine sound, or just expecting tier 2 to be up right now at 7.5 minutes?
Yeah, that's a fair expectation right now. So I'm just going to back this MG up. I know this MG actually does pretty good damage against the half-track. He's got the M3, we got shock troopers. I think we have enough kind of to take this thing down. I think we also got a mine going up here as well near the top center VP.
comes an scout car from one of the German players. This time Mercenary has also gone tier 2, so both German player has gone tier 2. When I've actually been playing some 2v2 matches with some friends in auto match, sometimes we decide to go for, you know, one person goes tier 1, tier 2, and one goes tier 1 and then directly to quick tier 3. What do you think about that? Is that basically the same as playing as Soviets? You can do, you know, one player goes tier 1, one goes tier 2, then one goes tier 3, one goes tier 4.
Yeah.
Can you actually do that as Germans as well?
Sure, why not? It just allows you to, especially, you know, a common tactic that we did internally was one person goes tier 2 to maintain the pressure and then a fast OS win to kind of, you know, just take that pressure a little further. It's basically, do you want to go for an all-in at tier 2, or do you want to go and spread out your pressure so that you're having more even pressure throughout the game? And I think one person going tier 2, another person going tier 3 is completely valid. I think it's a great strategy, actually. I think it's better than both going tier 2, if you can execute it well.
Well, both going tier 2, there are, you know, specific hard counts, especially with the Panzer Grenadiers getting a sniper every bullet, 45 manpower down the drain, for example. You know, it becomes extremely costly very quickly, and especially when your opponent is rolling with double snipers, for example, you just gotta retreat at 2 men constantly over and over again. So this AT gun managed to do enough damage to that half-track combined with that mine, I guess, or if the mine outright killed it, because it was damaged from the Maxim fire, I believe. So yeah, Maxims do, you know, fairly decent amount of damage against lighter vehicles like the scout car and the half-track from the German Armada. Nice bundle goes in on the AT gun. Does not that much. I think it actually landed in front of the defensive shield.
Yeah, it did, unfortunately.
Directional damage, you want to talk about that a little bit? Heavy cover?
Yeah, just pretty standard. It's just how it functions in COH. If you're gonna hit something, make sure you hit behind it. Always aim behind the AT gun. And look at the way the entities are spread, because that will impact a lot of what damage is inflicted. So in this case, there's actually quite a spread of 2 in the front, 2 in the back, so it's kind of hard to do a one-shot, one-kill. It's the advantage of having a larger crew size.
Yeah, exactly. The advantage of a 6-man Soviet crew. But you, in the latest patch, you implemented 4-man German team weapon squads. What were you thinking behind that?
Well, I mean, our big concern was that the Germans are extremely vulnerable. Their weapon teams are extremely vulnerable to snipes and grenades and so forth. So we wanted to avoid certain scenarios where mortars, for example, one grenade would always take them out, or MGs, which are extremely vulnerable to snipers. Obviously, the counter, you know, the consequence of that is weapon teams are now stronger. They have more health. So it's something we're looking at still. You know, we're not finalizing anything at this point. We're going to see how it works out in the metagame. Let people kind of play with it a little bit. But other things we might be looking at is actually a health reduction as well, and that would just mainly be to better reward flanking, so that the MGs or so forth, they can't be super standalone soldiers. They're meant to be support units that back up frontline units, not frontline units in themselves.
Yeah, exactly. You're supposed to basically back them up with your infantry, you know, so you can protect them from being flanked. But yeah, obviously when they're very powerful, if they got more health now as they got the 4th man, yeah, obviously that can turn out to be a balance concern in the end. But obviously, you know, it needs testing.
Right.
I guess you guys at Relic, you can only do that much testing before you have to like get more people involved, and that would mean making a patch public, so loads of people can actually try it out and, you know, actually tell you, like, you know, after I played a couple of 100 games here now, etc., this and this is what I feel. Well, then you get a way out that, I guess.
Well, I mean, in terms of balance, we're confident that the weapon teams are more balanced now, but them being balanced might not be good for gameplay. Perhaps they are balanced between each other, but something like flanking, which is an important element of the game, that is no longer as rewarding. So even though the weapon teams might be better balanced, the gameplay might still need to be looked at. So that's the reason why we'd be decreasing the health. It's to create better gameplay. That's our main focus with that.
Yeah, rewarding flanking especially. I think I've read a few posts on the official forums and the fan site forums as well about flanking, for example. And some people feel, especially now with the 4-man German support weapons, that, you know, snipers are less efficient against them, obviously, but also flanking became less efficient when they got, you know, technically the 4th man equals a health buff.
Yes,
you can look at it that way.
It's a damage buff as well, because they have a gun on them. I mean, it's not the
it's just one guy, but still.
you know, what I've seen players actually trying to flank these MGs, but just using attack move on the MG42 or the Maxim makes it so that the amount of micro it takes to actually properly flank and defeat an MG is too great. I mean, to me, that's bad tactics. I don't like the fact that I have to dedicate twice as much resources to taking out your MG when it's meant to be a support unit, not a standalone unit. So that's something that we really want to amend. And then there's been a lot of videos and there's been a lot of talk in the forums where MGs can basically they could just stand up to a flank, no problem. So it's something we're looking at, and if we do something, it's going to happen on both sides. So both MG42 and the Maxim will be looked at, mortars, anything, all weapon teams will be looked at.
So that's basically a sort of outright change to basically, you know, support flanking or enhance flanking, I guess. Tier 3 out with a P4 on the field. As you have gone Tier 2, you already had one AT gun on the field. So you got somewhat of a counter, but you now have your first T-70 on the field. But at 14 minutes, and you know the Germans have managed to hold on to the fuel on the left and the right. You know, vice versa. You basically traded the fuels during the entire game back and forth. So I guess this T-70s, you know, if you can get it out fairly quickly, it has quite a window of opportunity to cause, you know, a tremendous amount of damage.
I think it retains. I think it retains its opportunity fairly well. You just gotta avoid the
stay away.
Stay away from the P4 and focus on infantry. And I'm seeing that as the Germans are going a heavy infantry tactic, T-70 is gonna be reliable until the end of the game. And that's something
a nice AT gun, just relocated as the P4, but it's still in the firing arc here. But you don't have. You had no.
I think it hit the infantry.
I think it hit the grenadier because you didn't have line of sight on the P4 probably. But yeah, that was unlucky. So close to getting a shot in, and you know that SIS gun does quite a lot of damage to P4s. 18 thrown from MTD's Conscription onto the P4, and there's AT gun now looking to open up on it. At the same time, Armored Car went after the T-70 after taking some flak from that said P4, but AT gun gets decrewed by a very nicely placed rifle grenade as well. But Armored Car bites the dust.
Second T-70 coming out.
Do you think it's possible to gang up on P4s with pure T-70s?
No. I'm not going to go after the P4. I'm going to go after the infantry, and I'm going to let my opponent go after the T4 with his 85s.
Okay, so this is where team play comes into action, basically. So
exactly. You know. So I'll maintain the infantry, and I'll let him maintain the armor. And I still got my AT guns to give some support and support my own T-70, so I'm not relying on him completely.
Yeah, you gotta be able to at least fend off, you know, enemy forces on your own, because obviously your teammate can be on the other side of the map when that happens. When an attack occurs, you know, you gotta be able to defend yourself somewhat. So as you have AT guns, you can still fend off the P4 if he decides to relocate to the other side of the map, for example. Loads of infantry coming out from the German players. Mercenary now going for this VP in the center, but you know, right now Germans are ahead at 481 VPs compared to your own 253. Oh wow, that was a devastating rifle aid on that Maxim in the center.
So this is about the point in the game where we were like, oh shit, VPs? Right, we forgot we needed to hold those to win the game. It was unfortunate. I just don't think we were focusing on them, and that was to our own detriment.
Another rifle aid to be crewed that same Maxim. At the same time, your second T-70. That's T-70 finally takes down the church building, killing the MG crew inside. So that's one less MG42 that you have to worry about, I guess.
Right, and that's what I'm just going to focus on all games, just trying to take those infantry out.
And especially support units, that's going to be like prime bait for your T-70s, your prime targets, you know, support weapons, getting around them, because they are very speedy, these T-70s. You can easily outflank a pack. Oh, 2 P4s though. Whoa!
Yeah. So that's where I'm like, I got to be a little more careful here.
Yeah, I guess you pushed your limits a little bit there by going that far forward with your T-70s, but I guess you were out after, you know, finishing off some more infantry, because he was forced to retreat due to the double T-70s coming into the center.
Yeah. So this is where I'm going to start utilizing I'm dumping my munitions actually on my ZIS, because I think it's, you know, it's a great ability, the barrage. Something that you can never really undervalue.
Yeah, against enemy support weapons and infantry altogether doesn't really matter, but especially against stationary MGs, for example, that artillery barrage is very nice. Yeah. It's basically like a mini mortar, I guess. Yeah,
don't use it against tanks. Oh, there, you just took that MG out first shot. The gun itself was destroyed. Oh, no, never mind.
It's still going. Oh, very close.
Yeah, the thing with your barrage is I see some people sometimes barrage vehicles with it. The barrage actually does less penetration.
Yeah, so that's basically not used for AT. It's an anti-infantry tool. Long range anti-infantry. Like a mortar.
Exactly. Alright.
Nice use of the SU-85 coming in, and the AT gun has actually faced one of the P4 with a very damage. Gets AT naded when it's trying to get out, and this SU and AT gun easily gonna take that out, that P4. So yeah, go to counters against P4s, SU-85 AT gun combo, you know, spells disaster for P4s.
I'm seeing a lot of blobbing at this point, so my thoughts of, okay, guys blobbing a lot, I'm gonna get some howitzers. Again, focusing on that AI, where my opponent's focusing on the AT.
Nice engagement here with the German infantry pushing through against this AT gun SU. There's Shreks on one of the P-Grand squads as well, which is doing quite a number on this SU-85 right now, forcing him to back away. He might be able to save it, NTD. Reversing away, here comes the T-70s to support the retreat, the soft retreat from that SU-85. Oh, yeah, the AT gun was destroyed permanently.
That's okay. I also got a T-70 up here.
Oh, T-70 at the fuel point, yeah. He got fasted, but still gonna prompt the 2 German infantry squads to retreat. Yeah. He's not gonna be able to completely destroy the T-70s with fasts alone. I think even against 2 Grenadier squads, the T-70 will still win if you use the fast as much as you possibly could, you know, due to them having a cooldown. How long is the cooldown for the fast ability anyway?
That's about 30. All abilities are 30 seconds.
Okay.
So one thing that I said earlier we started realizing the VPs were low. I think it was about this point we're like, yeah, the VPs.
Yeah, when you come down to, you know, the 100 numbers somewhat, you gotta start worrying much more.
Pretty much. So
it goes quite fast, especially when you're triple capped on VPs, you know, 3 ticks every second. Yeah, it's a lot.
And I think around that the big tank patch, we also we increased the rate at which VPs count down.
Oh yeah, that was initially it was beta. Slower, and now it's like more like Company of Heroes 1.
Right, essentially is what it was. So here I go in for a crush for the T-70. In the beta, there was a little bit of a bug with the MG42. You can actually run right over it and kill the whole crew.
Oh, really?
So that was
it's a stolen Maxim.
That's a stolen Maxim, yeah. Yeah, it is a stolen Maxim.
Using your own weapons against you. That's not very nice.
Right. Yeah, I know, right?
Everything's fair in war, I guess.
I suppose. So I think the T-70s, they're not doing too bad. I got,
but you lost the one,
number of retreats.
And you know, you lost one, but it's not that expensive manpower-wise. 160, 55 fuel is, you know, for what it does, it is an extremely potent lever to kill.
Exactly. It's forcing a lot of retreats. It's actually giving us that opportunity to maintain map control. And I mean, look, his armor's just not standing up to those 85s.
Yeah.
So I think at this point they're thinking we need something to counter the 85, otherwise we're just going to lose this game, and that's what they do. They come up with a really strong counter.
So let's see, you're just gonna use. Are you actually
look at all this
infantry with the T-70 now on the right hand side?
Look at all this infantry right now in his base. There's what? There's I'd say 12 squads there.
That's a lot of infantry from the red German player Mercenary, I believe it is. He's got 2 P-Grand squads, 2 Grand squads. He's retained quite a lot of veterans as well on his Grenadier squads. You know, Vet 2 Pio without a flamer? How did that happen?
He could have lost it at some point.
Yeah, of course. You still have the chance of the crit happening. The percentages are quite low. Do you know exactly what the percentages of a crit like that happens?
10% on red health. So you have to, it has to be a killing blow, and if it's a killing blow, you have 10% to lose it.
And if it doesn't roll a 10% critical for the flamethrower to, you know, combust, explode, then it just gets passed along to the next alive crew member, I guess.
Yeah.
Are there any other similar crits like that can affect, you know, weapons, heavy weaponry, for example?
Not that I know of, no.
It's just a flamethrower that can, you know, explode randomly. Lots of Shreks on the German infantry. Yeah, exactly.
A lot of Shrek. A lot of Shrek.
I actually really like that they can actually explode. They did explode in Vico as well, but that was only on, you know, the entire squad wipe kill. Then they could explode at the last guy, but it would never explode until the last man on the engineer squad actually died.
I thought it could. No, it was the last guy.
Yeah, I believe so. I'm fairly certain in Company of Heroes 1 that you couldn't lose the flamethrower and still retain the engineer squad. If you lost the flamethrower, the engineer squad was dead basically. It exploded at the the killing blow would destroy the flamethrower.
First howitzer is up.
Here we go, howitzer in the Soviet base from Peter. That's gonna be very nice, especially when they're pushing out of their bases with, you know, clumped up. Do you use the howitzer to bombard enemy bases after large retreats? That was something that happened in Company of Heroes 1.
Yes, of course. Always a great tactic. The thing that you need to know about the howitzer, the Soviet howitzer, it has a larger AOE spread than the German howitzer. They have 1,000 penetration, basically you can penetrate anything in the game, and they deal 300 damage per shot.
Ooh. Nasty bombing run from the Axis players there.
Yeah, it was a good bombing run.
He did manage to retreat. Both of your Conscription squads survived. I believe NTD squads also survived while retreating. And S03E01 didn't take that much damage.
This would have been a great time to actually barrage him. You're going to start seeing the elephant come on, and I'm glad I have these howitzers because the howitzer is actually a really good counter to the elephant. So if you're struggling and you see a lot of elephants coming on the field, build howitzers.
Very, very interesting. I like that actually. I've never considered building the howitzer, but they only cost manpower. So even if you don't have fuel dominance, you can still get a howitzer up, I guess.
Yep.
Same with the Pack 43 emplacements. I've been playing with it lately a little bit, and they're a lot of fun.
Oh,
great AT for no fuel cost.
This is not looking good.
P4 and Shrek up P1 squad, but he might actually lose that squad, and he does. You do pay the cost, however, by losing your Bet 1 T70 and the second one.
It was worth it.
Might be able to get away.
I don't think I can get away. He's gonna have to roll a miss right here. Does he roll a miss?
No, he does not. There goes a T70s, but very, very close. You're pushing out with all of your conscripts out from your bases now. At the same time, I'm guessing this competent engineer squad on the right-hand side will be going straight for the VPs. You gotta stop the drain now at 38 VPs remaining. Yeah. That's all you gotta focus on, really.
This is all we gotta focus on at this point.
VPs, VPs.
Yeah.
So there's been, do you have anything planned in internal versions for, various units that people have the major gripes of? Let's just start off with the thing that I see most players complain about is the German strafe.
Yes. Well, since this is going to be released after the patch, I can talk about, the strafe's been dealt with. What happened was, I think at the last minute it was tweaked to make the visuals more appealing, because it was not dealing damage to units, which resulted in its damage being increased. For reference, it was doing about 150 damage per second, so we reduced it to about 30 damage per second.
Okay.
So it's quite a reduction. It's originally just meant to be a suppression utility off map. That's why it's 3 CP.
Yeah.
But what it turned into was a damage dealing infantry, pillaging off map. So that's been addressed.
It's kind of like an infantry bombing strike instead of it's a suppression tool. Yeah.
Right. So that's been addressed. It should be more fair. At this point, you're not gonna always just lose your infantry. It'll do very minor damage to them. And the biggest change is, in terms of like the way the actual mechanics, that it actually loiters properly now. So it's gonna run, loiter for 20 seconds, do another run, loiter for 20 seconds, do another run.
Okay.
So what that does, it enables you to actually use anti-air to counter it.
Okay.
So if you get 1 or 2 anti-air units, you'll be able to counter it typically within that first loiter.
Which would be the upgraded M5 half-track. And you can also get, on IS-2s and ISUs, those gunners also work against aircraft, doesn't it?
Yeah, they work really good. The gunners are meant to have really low chances. Like, this is actually the way that AA works is there's just a chance per hit to knock the plane down. Just a simplest way to do it. So the chance per hit on like a pintle is like 0.01. So a lot of people are, it's not actually serious, but extremely low. It would be like in the 1 or 2%. So people who are saying, well, the pintles just knock them down, or the top gunners on the Germans, it's completely anecdotal. It's an extremely low percentage chance. They fire often, so that's factored into the chance as well. So an Ostwind, for example, has about a 17% chance per shot, but it only fires like 0.7 shots per second, whereas this quad fires maybe 3 or 4 shots per second. So it has like a 0.4 or something, 0.04% chance, or 4% chance rather. So they're all factored in. They're roughly equal, the quad versus the Ostwind. The Ostwind has the highest per hit chance. But yeah, you basically what I'm trying to say is the quad will be a more effective counter to the strafing run, and players should find it that it doesn't deal as much damage anymore.
Okay. How about the T70s, as you've been using in this game, for example? Are they being looked into? I think, you know, other things like hit the dirt, for example.
Right. Well, T70s aren't getting. Well, they are getting touched. Arguably, they're getting buffed. It's such a minor buff that it's negligible. We're refactoring the way that we calculated scatter on some units.
Okay.
So it's really going to improve things like the Brumbar and the IS-2, for example. They're going to get some of the largest changes. The T70 is getting like a 10% increase in scatter, but its scatter is like 2.1. It's going from 2.1 to like 1.9, so it's very negligible. It's not going to actually have too much of an impact. And regarding hit the dirt, yeah, hit the dirt's been changed. So right now it provides a received accuracy modifier, which doesn't really mesh well into our actual gameplay systems. So things like snipers actually miss guys hitting the dirt, for example.
Okay.
That's not intended. And the bigger issue is that you can actually stack cover with hit the dirt. So right now I'm in yellow cover on this squad in such a BP, so I'm getting the cover modifiers, plus I'm getting the 0.5 received accuracy. So that squad is super durable right now. Obviously, as you can see, grenades still.
Yeah, rifle grenades, mortars, for example.
Right.
Splash damage,
cover,
I guess. Yeah.
But it's still strong enough that for infantry versus infantry engagements, it's just doing too much. The biggest change as well is because now it's cover. It's going to be light cover. For those who don't know, all infantry weapons have a point blank modifier, and typically it's 0 to 10. And if you get into that 0 to 10 range, cover modifiers get ignored. So if I come in and run with my conscripts and hitting right in front of your squad, previously you'd get full benefit. You get the 0.5 received accuracy. Well, with this change, because of the point blank modifier, there's no benefit to hitting the dirt in front of another player. It's meant to be a long-range defensive tool, not meant to be used offensively. At one point, we even tested putting combat modifiers on it so that you had reduced accuracy or something, anything to that effect, to kind of reduce its appeal. But at the end, we just didn't feel it was necessary.
Okay. So yeah,
so
it is basically all of the major gripes are always getting looked into, because I know a lot of people say like, it's really cool, you know, all of the Relic guys are on the fan site forums and the official forums, you know, talking with people, you know, giving their input here and there, and even, you know, small tips and teasers, you could almost call it, because, you know, I've been reading the forums, you know, various people from Relic have been posting in various threads. We have, you know, Noun and Quinn Duffy and Lynx and you yourself, for example, you know, and personally, at least me, you know, I take it like, if the Relic developers are posting in a thread, obviously they have actually looked at this thread, which means that they are aware of any issues that have been posted on the threads themselves. So, you know, if someone posts in Hit the Dirt thread, for example, when people are griping about it in the balance forums, for example, obviously you're aware of these issues.
Yeah, of course. You know, it's something that we take very seriously. You know, I usually spend 2 or 3 hours a day going through the multiple forums. And I do this on my own time. To be honest, it's not something that I do during work, because usually at work I'm trying to, you know, work on the game itself. So I mean, we take the game very seriously. It's something that we put years of our life into. So, you know, we're not just gonna idle and leave it alone. We want to see it be as good as original. And yeah, we're always reading the forums. I go through the Steam forums, the COH2 org forums, the community forums, a couple of private, like a couple other smaller community forums.
Hero T70s goes down on the right-hand side. I think we're going in for a crush against all of this infantry. Massive amount of infantry moving out again from the German players. Yeah, it's impressive that they've retained veterancy on loads of their grenadier squads, especially against T70s, because it's quite easy to lose them on retreat to chasing units like PPSH, upgraded conscripts, snipers, T70s, for example, as well.
Right.
It's not easy.
All right, there you go. So I'm just firing some howitzers actually right now on those guys.
Oh, he lost his pyro actually. The flamethrower explodes due to the Molotov cocktail burning them.
So he's actually starting to take quite a bit of damage from these howitzers, and I think you start to really see it ramp up once I start attacking the tanks with it. Yeah,
one of the elephants are actually down to 50% HP, and I don't think, you know, anything, no AT gun, no Su-85s, nothing has touched it actually. It's been all artillery.
Yeah.
It's not too bad, not too bad.
So now the howitzers I've bet too, they do 78% more damage. Now you really start to see them hurting.
So you increase weapon damage on veterans.
So there you go. You saw that shot right there. Took the P4 down to about 160 damage. There's another one. Just splash damage dealing affecting at this point.
Funnel A goes into the MG in the center, does not do that much and gets retaliated by Molotov Cocktail, which is going to force these Vet 3 Panzer Grenadiers off from the center, and you're actually going to go for a triple cap on the VP against the German players suddenly. What just happened? How did you turn it around?
It's turning around, man. It's turning
Do you know
around.
how? Do you know how? Do you know what you did? Were there any specific... Did you actually communicate with your teammate NTD here about, you know, we gotta protect this and this and, you know, just pressuring the opponent?
Yeah, the Elephant's great. It's a great anti-tank unit, but it has no AI, right? It's not like the 152.
Yeah, the ISG 152 that the Soviets can get in various doctrines, yeah. Because they're basically more like an assault gun all-round thing. They do loads of splash damage, especially against infantry. And they can still combat tanks as well with splash damage alone.
Exactly.
There is a lot of German armor, however, and they're trying to dislodge the center VP, and at the same time we have MG42 versus Maxim on the left-hand side VP, and that's all the only units over there. But you have the right-hand side locked down now, and you're just camping around. All of the German infantry is leaving their bases again, but I think, you know, reinforcing these infantry squads from the Germans are taking quite a toll now on their manpower.
I think so too, and I think those howitzers are really starting to kick in. Like
yeah, the howitzers don't lose anything in the engagement. You know, every kill they get is basically, you know, just a manpower damage to your opponent. You know, compared to fighting infantry versus infantry when both sides take casualties.
Like, look at that elephant. Just almost dead there. Just took a side hit.
Oh, there's a...
There.
Incendiary barrage. Down. There it goes. One elephant down to artillery. Not too bad at all.
Nice. So, I mean, if I was smart, I would be attacking his base right now because he has a lot of these guys there.
Yeah, you did see them retreating from the right-hand side quite a while ago, for example, but, you know, it's hard to have complete... Too, right? Yeah, of course, obviously.
The cooldown on it as well. It's, a lot of things have to... Oh, I'm going to lose a squad on this bottom. That's a shame.
Oh, double P-grams, but the T-70 is here, and without Shreks, those P-grams can actually defend themselves, so they're forced to retreat due to one little pesky T-70. That's going to protect the whole right-hand side now. And at the same time, on the left-hand side, there's a shock troop squad just hanging out, trying to prevent VP, because you've actually drained the German team down to 223 VPs now. You're still at 31, so you've lost 7 since last time we checked. But yeah, I guess you could say you're still in this game.
Yeah, for sure. I think this next elephant goes down as well to the howitzers. And once you hit Vet 3, you can actually hit the base, once you get the range increase. Oh man, I really wish I hit the base. I would have they would have done so well.
Yeah, look at all these German infantry squads healing up at their bases. All veterans as well, or at least 2 of the 3 squads here from the red player, and 1 veteran grenadier squad as well from the pink German player, the purple one.
Alright, I think this is where it goes bad. If you look at the West VP, I think this is where NTD was saying it kind of just went all sour.
This is
something happened.
One of the deciding factors of the game here.
I think this building right here,
it just won't die.
It just won't die.
There comes a stolen MG42 comes up, and a Vet 3 conscript from NT. Another grenade goes into the building, but the MG42, the enemy MG42, is just not dying. This shock trooper squad with a stolen Shrek against this P4 now. There's 2 P4s actually, 1 from each player. Is that a command tank? That's a command tank from Sully.
Yeah. I wish I threw him a howitzer barrage. I really regret that. You could have used it.
It's very easy to, you know, after a game say, I should have done this, I should have done this. Why didn't I do that? So, you know,
I think he loses this
one howitzer barrage from dealing tons of damage, but, you know, I targeted something else.
Yeah, he loses this Vet 3 right here. I think that's what he was saying. That cost him the game. Oh no, maybe he doesn't.
Vet 3 shock troop squad with stolen Shrek actually manages to get out alive, but this MG is not going to be able to fend them off. You are reclaiming this center here, as all of these enemy forces, the German forces, are basically on the left-hand side now. 2 of the P4s, 1 command tank and 1 normal P4, and all of this infantry and the MG on the left-hand side means that you have now taken the center. All of the right-hand side is completely taken by the Soviets, apart from that munition point outside of the enemy base. Wow, I think splash damage just killed that T-70. I don't think the P4 actually got a straight-up hit on it. It was just splash damage right behind it.
Yeah, I think we're about to lose the center as well. They're just encircling us everywhere. This is where hit dirt really kind of shines. It's a great hold the line tool. Oh, I used the strafe right here, I believe. Yeah.
IL-2 coming in.
I don't think it actually gets them though.
Also, the infantry seem to be retreating. Actually, all of the German infantry is retreating apart from one Grenadier squad that goes over to the right.
Just now would have been the time, right, for that howitzer. Just came up.
Yeah, in the base.
Perfect. So
these conscripts are actually holding a line, and you're gonna manage to actually hold on to the VP in the center and keep the drain up, but at the same time, this right-hand side now is a target for all of these German infantry squads moving out from both layers. One Panzer Grenadier squad is gonna go straight for this VP and nothing else.
So I think I got a barrage right in the center on the center VP, but or no, on this, yeah, on that munitions point, I believe.
Oh, I was very close to that damaged engine command tank.
Yeah.
Actually. We got another off-map used here, most likely an incendiary barrage used by NTD to force off these PQumsieh and Grenadiers from Mercenary. But yeah, all of this German armor right now, you know, they lost their elephants and replaced them with P4s.
Yeah.
So they're changing, you know, constantly changing it up, which can be extremely annoying because, you know, you have a hard counter out for something, and when you kill that certain unit, they replace it with another unit, and all of a sudden you're missing the counters.
Well, we have the counter to their P4.
SU is on the field again.
Yeah.
But the nice use of smoke might be able to get away. A Shrek snipe from that shock trooper squad is gonna try to go in for the pursuit, but there is an MG42. That's going to get the suppression off, and that P4 is going to be able to limp away as that SU-85 itself has a damaged engine, so it can't actually pursue it.
Yeah, again, like this is just again an opportune moment to actually hit the base. So if you have the howitzers, don't forget about the base.
Or the center VP.
Or the center VP.
Either one, I guess.
Still, the thing with the base is like you never miss a shot, right? You're always doing damage to something, and a lot of times in our internal games, we've actually taken out buildings. There's tons of base buildings, infantry reinforcing, you know, vehicles being repaired also sometimes. Yeah, so you know, especially on Moscow, where it's kind of your center retreat point, and it's also like your regroup point. You can do quite a bit of damage. Like the 5 or 6 hits will take a building down, and that's a lot of time to reinvest to build them again, and it can really kind of throw a player off. So in this case, we just lost from VP drain.
Yeah. They had you know, you did a nice, you pulled back in the mid game somewhat, you know, mid game, late or early late game, for example. But in the early game, they had, you know, VP dominance. You know, obviously that played a part in it. I think you had quite a lot of territory dominance in the initial stages of the game, especially on the right-hand side, going for that munitions harassment outside of the German base. But you know, they had the 2 VPs, so you know, when you actually got back into the game with the VPs, they had already drained you to, you know, below 100.
Right.
Then it's really hard.
We did and we didn't. I think to some degree I think it was pretty much a mixed match in the beginning, you know, and I think in the end we just kind of we didn't focus on the VPs throughout the early mid game, and I think that got us. Yeah, I mean, we held off at 37 to 31 for quite some time. I think if we had forced a little more in the early stages of the game, I think we could have, pulled it together. Yeah, exactly. So it just goes to say, remember, VPs are extremely important. They actually define the game, right?
Yeah, well, VPs do win you the game unless you go for, you know, if you get a base
total
annihilation. Yeah, but you know that generally doesn't happen unless you obviously the teams are extremely skewed into each side, for example. You know, then it can be extremely hard. But yeah, very nice game. I think, you know, both you and NTD fought on quite valiantly, and you know, the Germans did lose quite a lot of their vehicles, especially all of those P4s in the mid game there went down, you know, and they replaced it with the 2 elephants, and they went down eventually as well, and then they replaced it with new P4s, so changing up the builds there, you know, to throw you guys off, I guess, you know.
Yeah, so I hear a lot of people kind of saying, well, elephants win the game, that's it, want to see an elephant GG, but I just wanted to show in this game, you know, the value of the howitzer, and that it's something that really you shouldn't be
I think very few
overlooked.
people, a lot of people do overlook artillery in the game, I think.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
Like right now, had I actually hit the base, like look at this base right now. If I had fired on that base, it would have been so opportune. I'd be laughing, you know. It would just be pure.
Yeah, there's a ton of, you know, low health tanks, howitzers do very good damage, especially against medium armor or any armor, I guess.
Those two P4s would be one-shotted because at this point, Vet 3, you're dealing 300 times. Let me do the math. Let's double check the math here. Math is important.
Math is important.
534 damage. That's enough to one-shot most P4s.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Yeah, so that's with the veterancy bonuses. Is it only Vet 2 that gives damage, or both veterancy levels? Vet 3.
So Vet 2 gives you damage. Vet 3 gives you range. So if you look at the difference between the Vet 2 and the Vet 3, the Vet 2 can't hit the base. The Vet 3 can.
Vet 2 can see that.
Yeah, so you can hit the base and then some. It actually goes a little off map.
It goes off map, actually. And that's actually placed in your base. So yeah, basically the Soviet howitzer has the range of entire map of Moscow outskirts, which is quite a large map.
Right. Same thing with the German howitzer. There's no difference. They get the same vet. So I think if we had that one building, that one MG in that one building really cost NTD that one side. And I think I should have supported him a little bit more. Like I was so focused on the other side that I wasn't keeping map awareness. And I think that's really important in a 2v2. Especially when you have scenarios where one player is getting double teamed. And I think to some degree that's what happened. NTD got double teamed at one side, and I think that cost us the game.
Yeah, I see a lot of games actually decided that way. The double teaming,
right.
Where you gotta have team synergy. You gotta help each other out, or it's gonna be like that because your teammate's not gonna be able to hold out against two armies. And then when he has basically his defense has faltered and been defeated, they're gonna turn their attention to yourself, and then you can't hold on because your teammate can't help you out because he was just defeated in the field. So he's gonna take time to recuperate, and that's
exactly
double teaming, very potent, extremely powerful in 2 versus 2s especially.
You'll also see I was able to keep the T-70s, keeping pressure with the T-70s, and then they worked fairly well. Yeah, they're not gonna beat 2 Shrek squads, and you might see them die, but that's expected. It's expected that someone who invests 720 manpower and 240 munitions is going to beat a 160 55 field unit. That's expected. But one-on-one, I'll win. And I think that's what people need to keep in mind.
Yeah, especially with pushing and crushing with the T-70s, for example.
Yeah, it's
one
really
Shrek squad is not enough.
But it's not. I don't think it's overpowered. I mean, I lost a fair share of T-70s. It wasn't an issue killing them. They have their counters, but they're good at AI units. They're cost effective for AI. The T-34, I don't know. T-34, we have to look at. I think there's been a lot of discussion that it's underperforming and that it feels a little lackluster. And I got to say to some degree, I agree. I feel like
I've seen gripes about T-34s as well as since the major overhaul of vehicles, they feel like before the T-34 could tango easily with most German armor as well, and now most Soviet player feels that they need something. Not the soft counter of a T-34, where you can basically, the T-34 is cheaper than a P4, for example, with 20 fuel cheaper than a P4, but they can't really tango one-on-one, so you can still get dominance. You can have 3 T-34s generally somewhat when your opponent maybe has 2 P4s and then maybe, 1 RAM and then, gang up on the second.
You still won't win.
It's impossible with theory crafting and vacuum because you have supporting units, and especially in 2 versus 2 and team games, your team player is gonna support you as well, and then it's impossible to say what just outright wins. But yeah, I've seen quite a lot of gripes about the T-34 underperforming, but I think most people will be very satisfied with the information that you have given them today, and obviously when this comes out, the patch will most likely have already landed. So people will be extremely busy, I think, especially with strafe and hit the dirt changes, for example, because I think those two have been the major gripes. Would you say?
Yeah, I'd say so. But there's no T-34 changes coming out. They'll see the patch notes. There's nothing in that pipeline right now. Well, there's something in the pipeline, but it's not in the patches.
Okay.
So just kind of. I'll talk about it a little bit. I've talked about it on the forums, but basically, the P4 is meant to be geared towards anti-tank, right?
Okay.
In the beta, it was more of a mix. It had AI and it had AT. Especially with this next patch coming out, you'll notice that its scatter actually got increased even further from 6 to 6.5 to 9.5. So we're actually making the P4 again even weaker versus infantry and stronger and maintaining its current strength versus.
So the scatter is going to be increased, which means that they basically will miss more often. That's basically,
miss more often.
Yeah.
So. the thing with tanks, and I think people are going to complain. They're going to say, well, why didn't anyone touch the 85? How come the 85 hasn't got touched yet? Or how come the T-34 hasn't got touched? The thing is, when you modify the T-34 or the 85 or the Stug or any of these units, you're not just modifying that unit, you're modifying all the other units because everything's relative. So if I, for example, make the T-34 stronger, I actually make Stugs more viable because you're going to see more Stugs fielded, and the Stugs still, for cost, are an extremely effective counter versus T-34s.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interaction in the actual balance, and I think that's something that people are. Sometimes they just say, "Well, just do this." Well, we can't just do that because there's a lot of consequences to doing that. So if we increase the damage or change this or that, it's not just changing that unit; it's changing the whole game. And I think
of course,
very,
everything
very
is relative. Yeah, everything affects each other. So if you buff, unit A, then all of a sudden, even without touching the stats of unit B, it will still be either stronger or weaker compared to unit A because of the changes. So yeah, it's gotta be a nightmare to balance stuff. I don't know. I don't think I would want your job actually. Probably pretty cool to work for Relic, but I don't even know if I wanted to be in your shoes and have to make these decisions and actually have to come up with the proper solutions. That's gotta be tricky.
It is tricky, but that's why we take our time. We're not pushing out patches every day because we need to let things develop in the metagame. I know people have kind of said, well, you got things like the strafing run, which should be a no-brainer fix. Yes, I agree. But there's other things like the patch cycle. We don't have the capacity to just hot fix the game in a day. It's not something that exists right now. It's something that we're working on, improving that process. But the pipeline takes time. So we got to test things. Let's say we're changing the T-34, for example. We got to test that thoroughly. We can't just put a change in because we don't want to be in a scenario where we change something, put in their patch, and that fails, and then we have to essentially revert it because A, that looks bad on us, and B, it's not good for the game. You guys wouldn't want something where we patch something and it breaks it. I don't think anyone wants that. If we created the strafing run in a future patch, for example, let's say it was shitty and we made it really good, I don't think people enjoy that. They'd get pretty pissed off. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen. It takes time. And playtesting actually takes a lot of time. And then you got to go through the QA cycle, and then hopefully nothing was wrong in that QA cycle. If something was wrong, maybe we missed a value or anything, then it got to get reset. We got to fix it, then it goes back in the QA cycle. So things take time. And I think the biggest, aside from the actual balancing of the game, the biggest complaint is people just want things faster. And we want things faster.
Some do, yeah. Some do on the forums.
We want things, yeah.
Yeah, they want it faster. At the same time, I'm basically on your level as well. I understand that, you can't change Unit A without affecting Unit B, C, D, E, F, and Infinity, basically, because you will basically affect everything. So I understand that, but obviously people are impatient because, there is a love for this game and the community is extremely strong, and obviously they want this game to, be good because they want to play the game because they love the game. So when they feel that something is, this is affecting my enjoyment of the game, for example, so I want to change now. But obviously people have to consider that things take time, and you spend a lot of time game testing because as I have you on my Steam friends list, for example, I can see you playing Company of Heroes 2 during office hours, always playing.
Well, not always playing. Sometimes we're just, testing things. Yeah. Our tools are different, so I can just spawn units, and I don't have to play the full game. I can just stick around a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Of course.
Another day, I'll give you a little hint. What we're working on the other day, we were testing the T-34 Panzer IV scenario. So we had a couple P4s, a couple T-34s, and there's some changes we're working on.
Very interesting. I think the people that love the T-34 is going to be really happy about that.
Yeah, I think so. I think that unfortunately T-34 is complex because any changes have to happen to RAM as well.
Yeah.
Because I think RAM's actually it's a costly ability, but I think right now it favors the Soviet player, and I think that T-34 was a good unit, right?
Yeah.
If it was a good unit on its own, RAM would be more of an issue, but because it's such a poor unit right now, RAM's not an issue. But so anything we do to T-34, we also have to take a look at RAM. Yeah. So it's a change that requires even more time than it usually would.
Yeah. So basically, once again, everything affects everything. If you buff the platform that has RAM, you buff RAM as well.
If we lower the price, the ability becomes cheaper.
Yeah. True.
Things like that.
True.
Keep in mind though, the ability is actually not priced. The vehicle's not priced based on the ability. The ability is independent of the vehicle. So if the vehicle costs 240, 95 fuel, that has nothing to do with RAM. RAM is self-costed.
Yeah.
All abilities are self-costed. So why don't we go over to the patch notes real quick, since everyone will actually have them. We can talk about them. Is that something you want to do?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. So
you can just go down the list as yeah. I can't tab out right now because that will mess up the recording.
No worries. I'll go down the list. So the first thing you'll notice is the commander ability path, and that really is just to improve viability on the German side. When you compare it to the Soviets have a lot of abilities available at 1 CP. It makes their doctrines more impactful early game, whereas the Germans have to wait 2 or 3 CP before they actually start to see things.
Yeah.
So you really see it because the Soviets have a lot of call-ins at 1 CP. So we want to kind of balance things out a little bit, give the Germans more utility. So a lot of the 2 to 1 CPs, that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to improve appeal, and it's meant to improve the performance of these commanders early game. Something like fear propaganda, for example, it was at 5 CP, now it's going to be at 3, and that's just, again, it's costed for when it makes sense in the game. At 5 CP, for what it did, just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
We had some changes to the abilities, a number of changes to commander abilities, rapid conscription and relief infantry. Those two we're just trying to improve the appeal. They're actually going to change the functionality, and the way they work is it's essentially a way to convert munitions into manpower.
Yeah.
And you have the capacity to get an 80% rate of return on it. So if you invest 100 munitions and you fully utilize the ability, you get full return on it. You'll get 100. You'll get 80. I'll give you the actual number. So I'll take 100 munitions. I'll time it by 1.8. So I get 180 munitions, and then I'm going to convert that into manpower. And the way we convert things into manpower is 1 munitions is 1.66, I think. So you're going to get 320. You get 320 manpower if you fully utilize that ability for 100 munitions.
Yeah.
It's actually 120, so it's 1.66 munitions per manpower. That's our conversion ratio.
Yeah.
So people don't know that. Now you know. I'll maybe explain that in another cast. So that's the way these things work.
Yeah.
And they have a long duration now. I don't know if you noticed in the notes. So it's a better opportunity to actually get that investment back. Other things like Hit the Dirt I've already explained. That's just, it fits better now in our combat system. It's no longer give you received accuracy. The strafing run, that's another one that people are going to want to know about. So the damage was about 150 damage per second. Now it's going to go down to about 30. And the biggest thing in kind of its behavior, it's going to loiter longer now. So it's not going to go from attack to attack. It's going to do an attack, loiter for 20 seconds, do another attack.
Yeah.
And the big thing with that, it enables you actually to use anti-air effectively. It lets you get your AA support in there and counter this ability. So in a lot of ways, this is actually the cost. So people might have said, well, we should have increased its cost. Well, this is one of the reasons we're not increasing its cost, because it's actually a lot easier to counter now.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good change to strafing ability. You could have increased the cost, but it would still basically be the same thing. It would just be more expensive, but that you can counter with building more munitions OPs or getting more Opel Blitz trucks, for example, just to increase your munitions income, and it would just be the same thing again with a different cost. I think it is different. It is better that the changes you did now, just changing the ability itself. I think that is way better.
It won't kill squads. It requires the full ability. So when we tested it, requires the full ability, 3 passes to take out an AT gun.
Okay.
For reference. So.
And you will have time now, as they're playing with loiter longer. Right. You'll have the time to go away.
You have 1 minute to move your infantry.
Yeah.
The radius isn't being changed. That is actually waiting for code support. We want to keep the loiter. We want the loiter to be large enough that it's visible. If it's too tight, it just looks odd.
Yeah.
So we want to maintain the visuals of the loiter. We're trying to get code to actually separate the visuals from the actual game data. And once that goes in, you'll have a smaller area of impact. Right now it's 120. So it's the size of a 120 millimeter mortar barrage radius. That will probably go down to about half in a future patch.
Okay.
So that's something
it'll affect a smaller area, basically.
Right. Something to keep in mind, but it's just something we want to put this fix in for now. The thing we were kind of debating was whether to just try to get the full fix in, but people were persuasive enough to say that, well, we'll get half the fix in, we'll do the other half later. And then here's the scatter distance value changes. So I want to go over this because I think there's going to be a lot of kind of, oh no's, or kind of confusions.
Or what does this actually mean?
What does this actually?
Yeah. What is scatter?
So tanks don't function on accuracy. There's a small chance they'll actually hit infantry based on their accuracy. They have a 2.5 to 5% chance to hit infantry depending on the range. So that actually counts for really, really low chance. They actually hit infantry through scatter. And the way scatter works is it takes 2 values. It takes an angle value and it takes a scatter distance value. Scatter distance value is the front to back from your shot. The front to back, how far the shell can go forward or back. The angle is how far it can go left to right. So whenever we decrease the scatter distance, we make that distance tighter. So your shell is going to be more consistently hitting the same spot. So whenever you have a higher scatter value, you're decreasing accuracy, and lower scatter distance value increases accuracy.
Yeah.
So the big changes here are the IS-2 and the Brumbar. The IS-2 went from 7.5 to 2.6, 2.8, 2.9 if you round it up. And that it actually means, with its large splash, every time it shoots, it's going to hit infantry. So this thing really starts to decimate infantry now. It's going to be super effective versus infantry. It's going to be a great unit. It's going to be better. I don't know if it's going to be still viable because it's cost, something we're still looking at. But as far as performance, it should better differentiate it from the Tiger.
Okay.
Other noticeable changes are the Panzer IV. Panzer IV is going from 6 to 9.5. So the P4 is still gonna, it's still gonna be fairly decent versus infantry, but it's not gonna be as effective. So it's probably gonna
more in an AT role now.
More of an AT role now.
Than a jack of all trades, I guess, which is kind of like it is now because
right.
It is hitting infantry.
It's still a little more. It's like 60-40 right now, so it's gonna be more like 75-30. 25 around there. Yeah. AT to AI. So yeah, take a look at that. Hopefully people don't. I think there's going to be some concerns that the Panzer IV was nerfed and something like the 85 wasn't. The 85 is we're being looked at, but unfortunately there's more interaction with the 85, and its changes will have a larger impact. So that's coming down the pipeline. T70, people might say, well, why are you buffing it? Yes, we are technically buffing it, but it's not going to really affect things too much. It's a point.
You're just leveling it out, basically.
It's refactoring its formula. T3485, again, it's gonna be slightly more accurate. Tiger's gonna be a little more accurate. The Oswin's gonna be less accurate. Again, very minor. I wouldn't even consider it. It's negligible overall. The Brumbar, though, the big one's gonna be the Brumbar. Brumbar is actually gonna get 1 accuracy, or 1 scatter. So what this means for the Brumbar is a point and click. If I click on this point, that shell's gonna hit there.
Okay.
So against infantry, you can use attack ground or you can use your auto aim. Obviously, I think more expert players are going to use attack ground the same way they did with the Stu and COH, and you're going to get huge, massive damage dealt because of it. It still has its vulnerability, still 40 range, still has high cost, still tier 4. But if you do field it, it's a really strong counter versus infantry now.
Yeah, it's like something a lot of the higher level players in Couple of Heroes 1 would do with the Stu using attack ground. It was very common. So yeah, that might be actually rolling into Couple of Heroes 2 with the Brumbar.
Right, exactly.
That's cool. That's cool. I like
that. It already kind of functioned that way, but now it's point and click.
Yeah, it requires a bit more micro. You're not just leaving your tank on basically auto attack or just attack move with them. You can use attack round into the fog of war, for example. You're still gonna hit the point that you're actually aiming on, and you can do stuff when you know that someone's sitting around in the fog of war or behind trees or whatever. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah. So the next big change. This was really going to affect early game, and I put it at the bottom of the patch notes just because, I think that's the last thing people are going to read.
Yeah.
Is the HMG suppression modifiers. So what this does. I think there might be some complaints. Some people might be worried, the Soviets are getting nerfed. But remember, it goes both ways. Both factions now won't be able to suppress. And right now, so let me explain the scenario. Let me explain the issue we're trying to resolve. So HMGs, you have set up, a Maxi moves in, and takes that HMG out. That's not good tactic. That doesn't make sense. Now, once you get suppressed, you lose all your combat modifier, or you lose all your combat capacity. You can't suppress, you can't deal damage. You'll still shoot, but it's all visual. So the gameplay aspect is if you suppress an MG, you pin it rather, it's no longer effective. You could keep it on the field, but it's no longer effective. And that goes for both Maxim and HMG. So what we saw in our playtests is, for example, I had a scenario where I had an HMG set up, and I lost to a Maxim because I had the Piero, who's the other player, actually used 2 Maxims. One took the hit, got pinned, but he had another one that flanked and pinned my HMG. So there's actually interesting gameplay there where you had to actually think of the way you flank and the way you engage MGs. And I ended up losing. I had to retreat because he had one that wasn't pinned and mine was pinned. So basically, if you pin HMGs, they're not effective. This should have changed the way that HMG versus HMGs function. Maxims can't just roll in anymore.
Yeah, you can't just run in with auto or attack move, for example, and just set up right in front of the MG and just go at it, and then eventually you're going to win.
So we want to hopefully encourage combined arms. The Maxims has the mobility, so they can better flank the HMGs. HMGs obviously have the wide arc.
Faster pack up and stuff like that. Yeah.
So it'd be interesting. You can still counter MGs with MGs, but it's going to be a little bit more, a little bit more micro,
Yeah.
a little bit more forethought. If you have something in the building, as an example, that MG will be nullified.
Yeah.
Versus something that's on in the open field.
Yeah.
That's it. That's pretty much the patch. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Fatal?
No, I think that's pretty good. I'd just like to thank you for coming on TFN again and doing this this cast with me. And yeah, I had a extreme pleasure of having you on for the tournament. And we have stuff in the pipeline as well on TFN. Obviously not balance changes. We're not the developers for Relic, but we're trying to promote their game here with some videos for people on YouTube and live on Twitch as well. And we have some stuff in the pipeline as well. So hopefully we can bring you on for our future projects that we are working on right now. And yeah, I'd like to thank you once again for coming on, and hopefully all of you people that have been managing to hang around for this long to hear the explanations of the patch note, that you enjoy that. And as the patch will be live when this shoutcast is actually released, just get at it, start playing, and start evolving the metagame again with these changes right now. So there's gonna be no more strafe, I guess. You can't really just use strafe and just outright deny an area for quite a long time. Now you actually gotta give it some thought. It's still gonna work, but just not as effectively, I guess. So yeah, you gotta evolve that metagame and change up your strategies. And hopefully we can get some good games and some replays that TFN can cast. So thanks for joining me, Peter, and thanks guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that juicy subscribe button, and check us out on Twitch as well. It's twitch.tv/the Frontline Network. We will be streaming. I'm actually playing there sometimes, just automatch, playing 2v2s and 1 versus 1. So if you want to check that out, just go ahead and follow that, so you get a notification in your email when I go online. And also all of our future live broadcasts will be on that same channel. So thanks guys for watching. See you guys for the next episode.